The legend of the 1965 Chevrolet CK pickup. The sun breaks over the horizon, painting the sky in soft oranges and pinks that stretch across endless cornfields. Morning dew clings to everything: the grass, the fence posts, the chrome bumper of a 1965 Chevrolet C10 parked beside an old red barn. The truck sits quiet but purposeful, its clean horizontal grille catching the first rays of light, casting subtle shadows across the sculpted hood. A gravel road winds past it, disappearing into fields that seem to go on forever. There's a stillness here, a moment frozen in time, where you can almost hear the echo of an America that once was simpler, harder working, built on the backs of trucks just like this one. This is the story of the 1965 Chevrolet CK pickup, a truck that became more than metal and rubber, more than an engine and a bed. It became a companion, a workhorse, a memory. It hauled lumber and livestock, carried families to church on Sunday mornings, and sat idling outside diners where coffee was a dime and the waitress knew your name. It was there when you learned to shift gears, when your dad taught you to back a trailer, when your grandfather loaded hay bales in the summer heat. This wasn't just transportation. This was America on four wheels. The birth of a legend. Understanding the CK series. To understand what made the 1965 model special, you have to go back a few years back to 1960, when Chevrolet decided it was time to leave the past behind. The task force pickups of the late 1950s had served their purpose, but the world was changing. Farms were getting bigger, highways were getting longer, and Americans needed trucks that could handle both the dirt roads of rural life and the expanding interstates connecting coast to coast. So Chevrolet introduced the CK series as a bold reimagining of what a pickup truck could be. The naming system was brilliantly simple. C meant two-wheel drive, K meant four-wheel drive. C10 was a half-ton two-wheel drive truck. K20 was a three-quarter-ton 4x4. The system made sense, and it stuck around for decades, becoming part of the language spoken in feed stores, body shops, and family garages across the country. But it wasn't just about the name. The CK series represented a fundamental shift in engineering philosophy. Chevrolet built these trucks on a drop-center ladder frame design that lowered the cab, improved stability, and gave drivers a more car-like experience without sacrificing the toughness expected of a working truck. The result was a pickup that rode smoother, handled better, and didn't beat you to death on a 50-mile haul. By 1965, Chevrolet had refined this platform into something truly special. The first-generation CK trucks ran from 1960 to 1966, and 1965 sat right in the sweet spot, the midpoint, where all the early bugs had been worked out, but the design hadn't yet been replaced. The 1965 models benefited from years of real-world testing, customer feedback, and incremental improvements. They were trucks that had been proven in the field, on job sites, and in the driveways of families who depended on them every single day. What made 1965 special? There's something about the 1965 Chevrolet CK that just feels right. It's in the proportions, the way the cab sits on the frame, the balance between the hood and the bed, the gentle horizontal lines that run the length of the body. It's a design that looks equally at home, parked beside a weathered barn or sitting at a stoplight in a growing American suburb. The ride quality was a revelation. While Ford and Dodge were still using solid front axles that transmitted every bump and rut directly into the steering wheel, Chevrolet had introduced independent front suspension to its trucks. This was the kind of innovation you felt immediately. The truck absorbed the road rather than fighting it. You could drive across a rutted field or down a washboard dirt road without having your fillings shaken loose. For farmers making multiple trips to town, for contractors moving between job sites, for families taking Sunday drives after church, this made all the difference. The 1965 models also showcased Chevrolet's commitment to thoughtful design evolution. The large wraparound windshield, introduced earlier in the decade, had been refined to provide exceptional visibility. The squared-off fenders gave the truck a strong, confident stance. A horizontal body crease ran the length of the truck, adding visual interest without unnecessary complexity. This was styling that aged gracefully, clean, honest, and quintessentially American. Inside, the dashboard was pure 1960s simplicity. Steel construction painted to match the interior scheme. Round gauges clustered in front of the driver, easy to read at a glance. The bench seat, upholstered in vinyl or cloth, often featured color matching that coordinated with the exterior paint. There were no computers, no electronic nannies, no screens demanding your attention. Just you, the truck, and the road ahead. The heart of the beast, engines and power. Pop the hood on a 1965 Chevrolet CK, and you're looking at some of the most reliable engines ever bolted into an American pickup. Chevrolet offered a range of power plants designed to meet different needs, from the frugal inline-six that could run forever on regular maintenance, to small-block V8s that delivered power and that distinctive American rumble. The base engine was typically the 230 cubic inch inline-six, a workhorse motor that valued dependability over drama. It wasn't fast, but it was steady, the kind of engine that would start on cold winter mornings and keep running through scorching summer days. For those who needed more muscle, Chevrolet offered the 250 and 292 cubic inch inline sixes. The 292, in particular, became legendary among work truck enthusiasts for its low-end torque and seemingly indestructible nature. These engines could pull heavy loads all day long, asking for nothing more than regular oil changes and basic maintenance. But for those who wanted genuine performance, Chevrolet had something special: small block V8 power. The 283 cubic inch V8 brought legitimate speed to the truck world, transforming the CK from a pure work vehicle into something that could actually be fun to drive. With around 175 to 195 horsepower depending on the configuration, the 283 gave the truck enough power to merge confidently on highways and pass slower traffic without hesitation. The crown jewel was the 327 cubic inch small block V8. This was the same engine family powering Corvettes and Chevelles, adapted for truck duty but retaining that performance DNA. With outputs ranging up to 220 horsepower, a 327-equipped CK could genuinely surprise unsuspecting drivers at stoplights. The exhaust note was deeper, throaty sound that announced your arrival from blocks away. These V8 trucks are now among the most sought after by collectors, prized for their combination of classic looks and genuine performance capability. Transmissions were equally practical. The 3-speed manual with column-mounted shifter was standard simple, durable, and easy to repair when needed. 4-speed manual transmissions with floor shifters were available for those who wanted more control and better highway cruising. And for those willing to pay extra, Chevrolet even offered the PowerGlide automatic transmission, though this remained relatively rare in trucks. Most buyers stuck with manuals. They were cheaper, more reliable, and better suited to the heavy-duty work these trucks were expected to perform. The experience. Behind the wheel. Climbing into a 1965 Chevrolet CK is like stepping into a time capsule. You grab the heavy chrome door handle, it has weight, substance, a satisfying mechanical action that's worlds apart from modern plastic fixtures. The door swings open with a deep, solid thunk. You step up onto the running board if equipped, or swing yourself up into the cab if you've got a base model. The bench seat greets you, wide, flat, upholstered in vinyl that's probably sun-baked and worn smooth by decades of use. You settle in and immediately notice the driving position, upright, commanding, with visibility that seems impossible by modern standards. The windshield is huge, the A-pillars relatively thin, and you can see all 4 corners of the truck. This is before blind spots became an accepted reality of vehicle design. Your hands find the steering wheel larger diameter than modern trucks, connected directly to the road through a manual steering system that provides honest feedback. There's no power assist in most models, which means parking requires genuine effort, but on the highway, that heavy steering translates to stability and road feel that's been engineered out of most modern vehicles. Turn the key. If it's an inline-six, you hear a smooth, mechanical purr, reliable, steady, workmanlike. If it's a V8, there's a deeper rumble, a throaty idle that you feel through the steel dashboard and bench seat. The whole truck seems to come alive with purpose. Pull the column-mounted shifter into first gear. The mechanical linkage has a certain amount of play. This is 1960s engineering, where tolerances were measured in practical terms rather than thousandths of an inch. The clutch pedal requires genuine leg strength. This isn't a truck that lets you forget you're driving. It demands participation. You roll forward, and immediately you notice the ride quality. For a truck from this era, it's remarkably smooth. The independent front suspension does its job, absorbing bumps and irregularities that would have rattled an older pickup to pieces. The truck feels planted, substantial, like it's ready for whatever work you can throw at it. The sensory experience is rich and immediate. Wind whistles through the vent windows, those small triangular panes that open to direct fresh air into the cab before air conditioning became standard. Pebbles ping against the inner fenders, each impact audible over the engine note. The steel dashboard resonates slightly at idle, a subtle vibration you feel more than hear. There's the smell of sun-baked vinyl, mixing with gasoline, oil, and whatever work the truck has been doing, hay, lumber, concrete dust. Shifting through the gears is a deliberate process. Each gear has its place, its purpose. You learn the sweet spots, the RPM ranges where the engine pulls strongest. In a V8 truck, there's genuine satisfaction in hearing the exhaust note change as you accelerate, that deep American rumble that's become increasingly rare in the modern automotive landscape. On the highway, the 1965 CK settles into a steady cruise. With a 3-speed transmission, you're likely turning higher RPMs than you'd prefer for maximum fuel economy, but the engines were designed for sustained operation at these speeds. The truck tracks straight, the heavy steering providing stability rather than requiring constant correction. You're not going to win any races, but you're not trying to. You're simply going where you need to go, carrying what you need to carry, just like thousands of other drivers and thousands of other CK pickups across America. America in 1965, the world of the CK. To truly understand the 1965 Chevrolet CK, you have to understand the America it was built for. This was a country still defined by small towns and rural communities, where Main Street actually meant something, where the local diner served coffee for a dime and everyone knew the owner's name. Family farms dotted the landscape, hardware stores were independently owned, and a handshake still sealed deals. This was blue-collar America at its peak of time, when a single income could support a family, when manufacturing jobs were plentiful, when a man could work with his hands and build a decent life. Pickup trucks weren't lifestyle accessories or luxury statements. They were tools, essential equipment for getting work done and life lived. The 1965 CK showed up everywhere. It hauled hay bales on family farms during summer harvests. It carried lumber and tools to construction sites as America's suburbs expanded. It sat outside gas stations, loaded with parts and equipment, ready for whatever repair job came next. It parked in church parking lots on Sunday mornings, cleaned and polished for the weekly ritual of community gathering. These trucks were family vehicles in a way that's hard to explain to modern audiences. Dad drove it to work during the week, but on weekends, it became the family hauler kids piled into the cab, tailgate down for little legs to dangle off the back during slow drives through town. It taught teenagers to drive, often on dirt roads where stalling or grinding gears wouldn't cause any real harm. It carried families on camping trips, fishing expeditions, visits to relatives in distant towns. The Chevrolet strategy was simple but effective. Build a truck that combined comfort, durability, and modern engineering to outperform Ford and Dodge. They succeeded. While the Ford F-Series remained popular and Dodge had its loyal following, Chevrolet's focus on ride quality and thoughtful design details won over countless buyers who discovered that a truck didn't have to beat you up to get work done. Variants and options. Something for everyone. Chevrolet offered the CK series in a dizzying array of configurations, ensuring that whether you needed a nimble city truck or a heavy-duty farm hauler, there was a model that fit your needs. The C10 was the most popular half-ton two-wheel drive truck that balanced capability with affordability. Light enough to be economical, strong enough to handle most jobs that came its way. The C20 3/4 ton offered more carrying capacity for serious work, while the C30 1-ton models were built for commercial applications where maximum payload was essential. For those who needed four-wheel drive capability, the K-Series delivered. The K10 gave weekend adventurers and rural residents the ability to handle rough terrain and challenging weather. The K20 and K30 models were serious work trucks, capable of going places two-wheel drive vehicles couldn't dream of reaching. Body styles offered additional choice. The step-side bed, with its distinctive external fenders, had a classic look that many preferred for its styling and ease of repair. The fleet-side bed, with smooth sides and slightly more cargo capacity, appealed to those who prioritized function over form. Short beds were perfect for maneuvering in tight spaces, while long beds maximized hauling capacity for those who regularly carried full loads of materials or equipment. Two-tone paint schemes were popular, typically featuring a lighter upper body with a contrasting lower section. These color combinations gave the trucks a dressed-up appearance without compromising their working-class roots. Side-mounted mirrors, upgraded bumpers, and various chrome trim packages allowed buyers to customize their trucks to match their personalities and preferences. Inside, options ranged from basic to relatively luxurious for a truck. Upgraded upholstery, additional gauges, heaters that actually worked, and even AM radios transformed the cab from a purely functional workspace into something approaching comfortable. These weren't luxury vehicles by any stretch, but Chevrolet understood that drivers spending hours behind the wheel deserved at least basic comforts. The legacy. Why we remember decades have passed since the last 1965. Chevrolet CK rolled off the assembly line, but these trucks refused to fade into obscurity. Drive through any classic car show in America and you'll find them, restored to showroom condition or wearing their patina with pride, surrounded by admirers who remember when trucks like these filled the roads. The collector market has embraced these trucks enthusiastically. Short-bed fleet-side models, especially those with factory V8 engines, command premium prices. Restorers love them because parts are relatively available, the mechanical systems are straightforward to work on, and the results are stunning. A properly restored 1965 CK turns heads at any gathering, its clean lines and honest proportions standing up remarkably well against modern designs that often try too hard. But beyond the collector market, beyond the restoration shops and car shows, these trucks maintain a deeper cultural significance. They represent a time when things were simpler, not easier, but simpler. When vehicles were designed to be repaired rather than replaced. When a truck was expected to last decades, not just until the warranty expired. When chrome was real metal, not plastic pretending to be something it's not. The 1965 CK helped define what a modern pickup truck should be. That combination of comfort and capability, style and substance, became the template that trucks still follow today. Yes, modern trucks are more powerful, more efficient, safer, and more comfortable. But something was lost along the way, that mechanical directness, that sense of connection between driver and machine, that honest simplicity that made these trucks feel like extensions of their owners rather than computers on wheels. Today, ownership of a 1965 Chevrolet CK means joining a community, hot rodders who stuff modern LS engines under those sculpted hoods, farm truck enthusiasts who keep them running as working vehicles, purists who restore them to factory specifications, down to the correct hose clamps. Online forums buzz with advice, parts sources, and stories. Local cruise nights feature these trucks prominently, their owners happy to pop the hood and share the history. Durité, the sound of memory. There's a sound a 1965 Chevrolet CK makes when you close the door, a heavy metallic thunk that announces quality, substance, engineering integrity. Modern vehicles don't sound like that. They've been optimized and softened, designed to whisper rather than speak clearly. But that sound, that solid mechanical confirmation that you've properly closed the door, triggers something in those who remember. Maybe you remember riding beside your father on Saturday morning trips to the hardware store, watching his work-worn hands shift through the gears. Maybe you remember your grandfather's truck, always parked beside the barn, ready for whatever task needed doing. Maybe you remember learning to drive in one, stalling it repeatedly in a field, while a patient parent coached you through the clutch and gas pedal dance. These trucks carry memories in their steel bodies, in their worn bench seats, in their sun-faded dashboards. They remind us of an America that still exists in small pockets, but has largely disappeared in America of family farms and small towns, of hard work and honest craftsmanship, of vehicles built to last and expected to be passed down through generations. The road home. The sun sits lower now, casting long shadows across those same cornfields. The 1965 Chevrolet C10 still waits beside the barn, patient and purposeful, looking much the same as it did at dawn. But something has changed. Maybe it's us, the ones looking at it, realizing that this truck represents more than transportation, more than a tool for getting work done. It represents a connection to our past, to the people who built this country with their hands and their backs, who drove trucks like these because they needed them and because they were proud of them. It represents a time when things were built to be fixed rather than thrown away, when a vehicle's worth was measured in decades of service rather than monthly payments. The 1965 Chevrolet CK pickup wasn't perfect. It was slow by modern standards, thirsty for fuel, uncomfortable on long trips, and required regular maintenance that most drivers today would find burdensome. But it was honest, durable, and capable. It did what it promised to do year after year, asking for nothing more than regular care and the occasional repair. That's why these trucks matter. That's why people still restore them, collect them, drive them to shows and gatherings. That's why your chest tightens just slightly when you see one parked beside an old barn at sunrise, dew on the chrome, gravel road stretching into endless fields. Because it takes you back to a time when America felt bigger and smaller simultaneously, when trucks were family members, when the simple act of driving could connect you to something larger than yourself. The legend of the 1965 Chevrolet CK pickup isn't just about metal and mechanics. It's about memory, family, and the America we carry in our hearts, an America where sunrise over cornfields meant the start of honest work, where a truck in the driveway represented capability and pride, where the future seemed bright because the present felt solid. That truck beside the barn will still be there tomorrow, and the day after, waiting, ready, timeless.